All right. So we had a conversation in the writing room.
We had all these interviews. We heard a lot about the grind, the sacrifice, the trade-offs.
Yep.
What were we not hearing in some of these interviews?
We didn't hear a lot about happy, oddly enough.
Almost anything about happy.
Not saying that people were unhappy. What we heard was more of the conversation around the hustle culture than a happy culture. And it struck us as it might be appropriate in an 11-hour period where we're going to talk about nothing but hustle, that for a few minutes we talk about happy. So if you'll hang in there with us, we just want to kind of walk you through kind of our musings or our thoughts on this, the hustle culture versus the happy culture, right? So I want you to do something. We put 8 words up here. I want you to look at these words, and we want you to choose one to describe your goal for your life, if you would. Just take a second. You got your word? So, if you chose at peace as the goal for your life, you were getting in touch with your spiritual side, right? If you chose healthy, then you were getting in touch with your health. Mm-hmm. Sure. If you said that I want to be accomplished, right, then you were getting in touch with your personal life. If you said I want to be loved, then you were getting in touch with your key relationships. If you said I want to be productive, then you're talking about your job. If you said I want to be successful, you're connecting to your business. And if you said I want to be wealthy at the end of my life, then you said you're getting in touch with your financial goals. And by the way, these are the 7 areas out of the one thing, right? The 7 areas of our lives. If you chose the word happy, it's the only word that actually would encompass all of them, right? So we want to kind of talk to you for a second about this.
Being intentional, like you can be all of those things except for the happy word and not actually be happy. We know a lot of successful people and wealthy people that aren't happy, right? So you've got to make it an intention, and that's where I connected it to that commercial. He was being intentional.
That's right.
About his future, and that was a happy moment he created by being intentional. I don't think happy happens on accident unless we're just really lucky.
I don't believe happy happens on accident. That's exactly right. You have to be intentional about it. So as we talked about this, we realized there's a myth around happy. And it goes like this. Many believe happiness is conditional.
Right.
Happiness, I will be happy if this happens. When this happens, I'll be happy. If this occurs, I'll be happy.
No one in this room, of course, but other people.
Well, we set ourselves up incredibly when we do that, when we make happiness conditional. But it's a lie. Happiness is much bigger than that. Sure, I mean, I get it. One aspect of happiness can be triggered by circumstances, right? This happened, and I'm happy about it, or this happened, and I'm angry about that, or I'm unhappy about that, right? But that kind of happiness is fleeting, and it's the least important, okay? The myth of happy is that happiness is one-dimensional, and happiness is not one-dimensional, it's multidimensional, right? So what's happiness? So if you go and get clinical on it, happiness is a state of well-being characterized by positive emotion or a sense of fulfillment, right? Positive emotion or a sense of fulfillment. It's an emotion that comes, we believe, in 3 dimensions, right? It's how I feel about a moment in time, how I feel over time, and how I feel about all of my time. So let's break that down for just a second, okay? So if we look at the 3 dimensions of happy, this is the way that we thought about it. And that is, number 1, how I feel about a moment in time is my emotional reaction to something that's happened.
Happy to see you, Gary.
Yes.
There you go.
There you go, right? Or I'm unhappy, right? Or how I feel over time, right? My ongoing state of emotional being. I'm happy. Or number 3, how I feel about all my time, my emotional response to how my life turned out. I'm happy because of how my life turned out.
Looking back.
Yeah. So we have these three dimensions. It's not one dimensional. But I promise you, most people think of happy as one dimension.
They focus on that number one, that thing that shows up unexpected, is circumstantial. The other two are completely within our control by choices that we make.
That's right.
You can also solve number one immediately if it's about buying something or having something. The others take time and purpose.
Yep.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So here's the challenge of the three dimensions of happy. Most people focus most of their attention on the first one, like you mentioned, Jason. Almost never consider the third until it's too late, right? The end of their life. And are rarely aware that the second is actually a choice, right? So let's kind of break this down real quick. So the first dimension of happy is a moment in time, right? Look, we're all entitled to our emotions, right? We experience as a reaction to our circumstances. We're entitled to that. And it's okay to be happy or sad. It's okay to be elated or disappointed, proud or embarrassed, angry or calm, right? It's okay.
We're human. That's going to happen.
Sure.
We're going to feel things.
Mm-hmm. Circumstances are going to come and go, right? And so will our emotions about them. Now, we get in trouble when we hold on to that.
Yeah, I shared a story. There's an old Zen tale about an old monk and a young monk that are traveling, and they come to a swollen river, and there's a woman there that can't get across and asks for their help. And the two monks are like, what do we do? Because they've both taken vows to never touch a woman. And the old man thinks about it for a second, the old monk, and he just grabs her, puts her on her shoulders, and carries her across. The young monk is speechless. And so they go back to walking, and miles and miles down the road, he finally says something. He says, "What were you doing? We took a vow."
Yeah, you broke it.
You broke your vow. And the older monk says, "I put that woman down on the other side of the river. Why are you still carrying her?"
Wow.
Yeah. So it's fleeting. Your emotions are fleeting, right?
Unless
circumstances happen.
Unless we cling to them.
Yeah. Most people think of happiness as circumstantial. They really do, right? I'm happy about this, I'm happy about that, or I'm unhappy about this, I'm unhappy about that. I'll be happy if this happens. And this is a setup for disaster when we think of happiness as simply one dimension. You guys.
That's a roller coaster.
Yeah. So that brings us to the second dimension, which is over time. So the second dimension of happiness is our disposition. So the first one is my reaction, my emotional reaction to something that's happening. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. You can be happy, you can be unhappy, just don't hang on to it, right?
Yeah.
Right. The second one, though, is our disposition. And our disposition is actually a choice, right? It's a choice. You talked about that, saying that you can't control events. You have a right to be happy or unhappy with them. But this one, by the way, this is a choice, and this is your life. It's your state of emotional being, and it should never be up for grabs, right? It's your rock, it's your foundation.
We've read the books. I know you've read The Happiest Man on Earth. If you haven't, you should. Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. We're capable of being happy in the most inhumane of conditions.
Because it's a choice.
It's a choice. People choose hope. They choose to focus on the things they can control.
Because it's not circumstantial.
Yes.
Your disposition is not circumstantial.
In a concentration camp, he finds happiness.
Because it's not circumstantial. Your disposition is not circumstantial. A lot of people get it confused, and they only have one state of happiness, and that is circumstantial. I'm either happy or not happy, based on my circumstances.
You said during a mastermind that ultimately it's a choice, and happiness is a gift that you give yourself.
Yes, it is. It's who we choose to be. It's who we are. You're either happy or you're not. Well, man, your life sucks. I'm still happy. You're in a concentration camp. I'm still happy. The market is down. I'm still happy. You're struggling to hit your goals. I'm still happy. You just had tragedy strike your life. I choose happiness. Well, you can't be happy about the circumstance. No, I hate the circumstance. That's a horrible situation. It's horrible, horrible, right?
Yeah.
But I still choose to be happy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, our dog, Millie's quit eating, right? Take her to the vet.
Hunger strike?
Nope, her liver problem is back. She has a liver problem. It most likely will shorten her life at some moment, right? I'm not happy about that. I know she's not either, but when I woke up this morning, her tail started wagging. Because the thing about Millie is she's always happy. The tail wags.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a choice for a dog. They're happy.
Yeah.
She's with her pack, and that's something we'll talk about later too.
Yeah. Emotions and time can be conditional, or emotion over time should never be conditional. You should be happy. You should choose happiness, even in the face of horrible, horrible, horrible circumstances. You should be happy.
Yes.
Right? I had a guy once tell me that I was more optimistic than I deserved to be. I did. I was in my 20s. He was an agent, and I was his sales manager. And he told me that. I fired him. I did. I said, well, let's be certain the one thing I don't have to do is look at you anymore.
Yeah. Well, but that's been a constant. I mean, ever since I've known you, you've said the best times are ahead of us. You've always said that. The best times for this company are ahead of us. The best times for our lives that are ahead of us. You're always looking onward.
Choose to be happy. You should be happy.
Yep.
Right. Yes. And the third dimension of happy is about all your time. At the end of your life, you want to be able to say what?
Glad I did.
I'm glad I did, not I wish I had. Right? We in our research, you know, we look a lot at surveys and the studies, and there have been significant studies on the topic of the regrets of the dying.
Yeah.
And, yes.
People weren't living the life that they chose, right? They weren't being true to themselves. And I was reading a blog post by a chaplain, an end-of-life chaplain, and he said he sits with these people, just like the book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying. Mm-hmm. And he said the sad thing is there's always two deaths. There's the actual death and the death of the dream that they never chose.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's that saying that everybody lives two lives. The one you're living, and then the one you live the day you realize you only get one. And if you never have that epiphany, it's hard to look back and be happy about it.
Yeah, circumstances can cause you to be happy or unhappy in a moment. I didn't get the listing, I'm not happy about it. The sale didn't close, I'm not happy about that. But I choose to be happy. And at the end of my life, I want to be able to say, I'm glad I did, not I wish I had. But that takes foresight. It takes an understanding that you could actually be unhappy. Look, my father, I love my father. My father was unhappy. On his deathbed, he refused to talk to me. He didn't talk to me or my little sister. He refused. He just sat there. And when we tried to talk, he'd go, shh, like that, and died having never said another word to us. Didn't talk. He was unhappy. Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to be that.
No.
I'm not going to be that, right? I don't want you to be that way either. Right? So which comes first, hustle or happy? Because again, I went through this in my 20s where I go through divorce, I go through the markets collapse, right? I look up, I have to buy shares in the company to the point where I'm in debt. Everything's around me, right? I'm driving a rented car, living in an apartment, rented, blah, 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 blah. I go through this period, and I realized that I had been living like a physical person, having a minor spiritual experience. And I was being driven by a bad self-image that said, if I succeed, I'm going to feel good about myself. And I had all these things happen to me, and I look up, and I go to the psychiatrist, and I say, fix me now. And he goes, okay, but we're only going to talk about your ex-spouse once. And I said, how come? He said, because it's all your fault. And I said, what do you mean it's my fault?
This was how the therapy started?
Yeah. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I mean, I don't know you that well, but you seem like a traditionalist, so I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, well, who asked who to marry who? And I went, oh. He said, you asked the wrong person. We need to figure out why, right? And I went through this journey of self-discovery about, am I a spiritual being having a minor physical experience, or am I a physical being having a minor, which am I, spiritual or physical? And as I go through that and made a decision that for me, I'm going to live the life of a spiritual person having a minor physical experience, I realized I was okay. I'm happy being whatever I am. And I looked up and I went, oh my God, I've lost my hustle.
Because you're happy either way.
I'm happy. If I'm happy, I don't have to be successful to be happy. I don't have to make money to be happy. I don't need anything to be happy. I'm just happy. Oh my God, I'm screwed. I mean, I had this moment of panic where I went, oh my God, I'm screwed, literally. And I looked up and realized, hold it, I'm a spiritual being, have a minor physical experience. I'm in a physical form. I'm going to go out and I'm going to have the most physical experiences possible. I'm going to fail a lot, but I'm going to grow spiritually. And when I realized that all of life, physical life, is meant to have spiritual outcomes, everything changed for me. Everything changed. I became fearless. It didn't matter what happened to me. You can't touch my happiness. You can't make me unhappy. Right?
What a freedom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I wake up right now and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Stacy, but I think I have about 1.3 billion in lawsuits on your desk right now.
With triple damages.
With triple damages.
I want to leave that out.
But you're happy. Not happy about that. Yeah.
I'm happy. Screw them. I mean, if I did something wrong, I'm going to pay for it. If I didn't do something wrong, I might still pay for it, And I don't care. You can take it all away. I don't care. It means nothing to me. It means nothing to me, right? Sean Anker in the Happiness Advantage said, more than a decade of groundbreaking research in the fields of positive psychology and neuroscience has proven in no uncertain terms that the relationship between success and happiness works the other way around. What? Happiness and optimism actually fuel performance and achievement. What? Hustle first, happy second is actually a broken formula that doesn't work because it's backwards. What?
This blew me away. When you guys wrote this and then I read it, most of my life was set up using that equation.
I know, crazy, right? Happiness is actually a precursor of success. It's not merely the result of it.
It's so nuts.
Yeah. Let the second dimension of happy be the foundation of your hustle, right? Whistle while you work.
Yeah.
Right? So which comes first, hustle or happy? You've heard the win the morning, win the day, and we want to add and choose to be happy every day. Yes, right? So whatever you're going to say on your final day will be determined by how you live your third dimension of happy each and every day. How do you do it? You prioritize your key relationships, the people who have ownership of your heart. Why? Because at the end of your life, we know for certainty that you're not going to say, with my dying breath, I just want to take one more listing, right? You're not going to say, show me my checkbook balance one more time, right? You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. And if you can get in touch with that reality and realize that all that will matter to you is that you're in harmony with the people that own your heart. If you're in harmony with that, God, life is awesome, right? And live that way now to make sure that that's where you end up.
Just like the grandpa, right? You're focused on it. It's part of your plan. You have to show up with foresight to make that happen.
Yeah.
You manage those relationships and your time with them.
Yeah. My dad died very unhappy, and it made me sad. So I looked at my mom, and I went, all right, this isn't going to happen. So I literally kind of adopted my mother. I mean, she was a piece of work, I mean, that was tough. But I came up with a plan. I put it into my 411. I came up with a plan. I put it in my 411 because my goal was on my mother's deathbed, I wanted her to say, I had a good life. I had a happy life. And I wanted her to say, you were a good son.
And she did.
And she did.
The last week of her life. Yep, she was in the hospital bed right before we took her home, and we were just talking, and she turned to me and she said, "I could not have had the life that I've had without you. You have been a good son."
It's beautiful.
She said, "I've had a great life." Yeah. Well, we weren't headed in that direction. I had to head us in that direction, and I had to fight her to get there. To be honest with you.
Leadership.
Yeah, I had to fight her to get there, right? Prioritize relationships. Number 2, honor your personal commitments, okay?
On that 1 and 2, I'll just add, just because I get to do the research, one of the longest studies out there, they followed about 270 Harvard students starting in the 1930s, and some of them are still alive and they're still following them today. And they've tracked them for what made them healthy, what made them happy, what made them successful. And I think in 2018, they updated that and they just said, if you want to know the single answer, it's love, full stop. Nothing mattered more to their success and happiness and health and longevity than how they manage their social relationships.
Number 1 thing, wasn't it?
It is the number 1 thing. And the gift we get, we're in the largest real estate community in the world. If you can't find your work people right here, where are you going to find them?
Yeah.
We have that right here.
You know what surprised me about that? Because I read that study after you mentioned it, the Harvard Happiness Project, was that this idea crossed all of the different wealth gaps. Meaning they followed people that had family lineages and were head of states, and then they followed other people that were blue-collar working, and across all of it, no matter how much money they had, the happiest people were the ones that were part of thriving communities,
Yeah.
whether it was their family or faith-based, or in our case, our business community.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And number 3, give your life over to something bigger than yourself, right? Happiness happens on the way to fulfillment, right?
We're going to interview someone that's going to talk about that pretty soon.
Yep. And the formula is simple. Your life is made up of values and goals, so you time block your goals and you time protect your values, right?
What does that last one mean? You time protect your values.
Well, what's really important to you? I've always said that your calendar will reflect your values, right? So if your calendar has nothing but all of your work time in it, that's what you value. If it has go to lunch with your kid, if it has
Date nights with your wife.
yeah, whatever. Yeah, if you don't just time block work, you actually time protect your values. Your calendar is your projection of how you should spend your time.
You've had
Right.
someone criticize you for doing that. They said, doesn't that take all the spontaneity out of it?
Yep. She said that to me.
But I remember your response being, it's so important that I would take that if it makes sure that it always happens.
Yes, I time protect because it matters.
Yes.
Not because I'm trying to not be spontaneous, right? Yes. Though I have taught John's daughter, my granddaughter, that when music comes up,
It's time to dance.
we dance.
It's time to dance, yeah.
Yes, that's my one spontaneous thing I do. Yep. And that's it. Living a culture of hustle may get you success. It may not make you happy. Living a culture of happy is your best chance for happy and success. And that's it. All right, guys, thanks. We have a...